Welcome to Waves of Wisdom, the podcast where we bring you intimate conversations with remarkable individuals whose stories inspire purpose, resilience, and transformation. I'm your host, Iyaz Wahid, and today I am incredibly honored to bring you a guest whose life journey ra- radiates compassion, grit, and relentless commitment to the well-being of others. Dr. Safeeya Mohammed is a medical physician, CEO, leadership coach, wellness advocate, and devoted mother. Dr. Safeeya, welcome to Waves of Wisdom. It is a real honor to have you on the podcast today. How are
Good
you
day,
doing?
I. Good day, Ayaz, and good day to all of your listeners. Honestly, the privilege is mine. I am so humbled and grateful to be one of your interviewees on this podcast. And I particularly love the name Waves of Wisdom. I'm looking forward to this experience and, of course, to just building further meaningful connections.
Thank you. Let's begin with our conversation from where you began. You
Right,
began
yes.
serving your community as a teenager, volunteering into local clinics. What drew you to service so early on? And what did these experiences teach you that still shape your work today, Dr. Safeeya?
That is indeed a deep question, and it is taking me all the way back. Now, one of my first memories is actually being in the mosque, serving in a medical clinic there. I was
Mhm.
actually just 17 years ago, so 17 years old. So that's just like mere years ago, right?
Yeah.
However, in that mosque, in that clinic, it was a medical clinic, and I got to experience or see other healthcare professionals show levels of compassion. And it really, I would say, ignited a spark within me. Now, why was I there in the first place? My parents were very much part of the community. They served the community relentlessly. My mother is a teacher, my father is in the agricultural sector. So being there didn't seem strange. It wasn't there for any gain in terms of ticking off something on a sheet for university or anything. It was really something my parents did. So we
Mhm.
continued to do so. And in fact, it goes even before being 17. As young as probably age 5, they had us volunteering in all sorts of activities. But that volunteering really creates, it sets something within your mindset of the opportunity to give back, the opportunity to be part of community, the opportunity to serve. And being there in the clinic, while all I was doing was very simple things, because like I said, I was just 17 years, observing the healthcare professional, I got to interact with persons in the community and also see how their medical journey changed, transformed, and it impacted upon me deeply in how I would like to set my own journey. So
Mhm.
the funny thing is, I didn't set out to become a medical doctor. It actually biology and stuff at university level, at high school level was not really my cup of tea. Math and
Mhm.
computer science, math physics was really my strengths. But in
Yeah.
observing the way that the patients will react to the doctor when they got that meaningful help, that planted a seed in me, Ayaz, that I constantly seeked to be able to
Mhm.
help other persons in the community. And it's still there. It sparks something within me that every single time I hope that I could inspire and empower other young interns and doctors the same way I was inspired back then as a teenager.
How wonderful, isn't it? So back then, did you see yourself as a uh, future doctor, or that how that gradually unfolded?
Right. Those. opportunities to serve the community really opened up my mind, really showed how persons unfortunately suffer and the kind of help persons needed. Like I just mentioned, it really wasn't my cup of tea, biology, science. It was not the things I scored the highest in. In fact, math and add math was the easy. I could close my eyes and write a math paper.
Mhm.
At the high school I was at, which is St. Augustine Girls, I got the awards for computer science, not necessarily biology and chemistry. However, being in the space of helping persons. In fact, there's a memory that I hold very clear, deep within my heart. There was a patient, her glucose measurement was through the roof. So that's in the line of diabetes. And her value
Mhm.
was just through the roof. And as she continued to come to the clinic, we were able, the medical professionals there were able to help bring it down. And when she came months later and she got the correct value, she got the value within the normal ranges, because I'm the
Yeah.
person doing that dia scan, right? She hugged me so tightly and she acknowledged me and called me, "Thank you, Dr. Mohammed." But this time I'm still a student, okay? But she
Mhm.
planted the seed for me. And she's like, "Thank you, Dr. Mohammed." And she was so happy at that point. I feel like she opened my own journey to create those next steps into medicine. So while it wasn't where I initially thought I was going to go, I believe it happened very organically, and the
Mhm.
universe opened up the doors and guided me into where I was meant to be. 20 years later, because it's in fact 21 years, this year will be 21 years I graduated from medical school. I continue to serve my patients. I've probably had like 10,000 patients right here in Trinidad and Tobago. I continue to serve each patient with that hope and with that opportunity and privilege it is to transform their life.
It's amazing, isn't it, how some incidents like this and the interaction with other human beings can really ignite something in a young person like you back then, isn't it? And uh, also, in our few conversations, you mentioned about somebody who is really inspiring in your circle, your grand aunt, the former first lady of Trinidad. I believe she is 94 now, recently. And she's still deeply involved in public life. And so what lessons about resilience, graceful aging, have you learned from supporting her? And how has that influenced your own work in wellness and well-being?
That is a question that could take the whole podcast. As I started volunteering in the clinic there, like I said, this was something that I observed around me,
Mhm.
especially through her lens. When she served as First Lady, and they served, in fact, Mrs. Hassan Ali, or as I, very familiarity call her Auntie Zali, because it's my grand aunt, right? She's my
Yeah.
grand aunt, my grandfather's sister. We would observe her going into the community, going to public spaces, and greeting persons, the level of compassion that she has, the level of humility, and just serving. In fact, just before this podcast, I had a conversation with her, and at 94, she's still going out there. She's patron to the arts, to the culture, and
Mhm.
having those opportunities as a young girl, as in my teenage years, in my early childhood, observing the way she interacts with persons at any level, from high dignitaries to
Mhm.
your everyday person. It's the same level of interaction. Her wisdom continues to invoke such changes and transformation. As recent as her 94th birthday, she was sharing with us certain experiences of just the way she's aging. Now, let me tell
Yeah.
you, at 94, she's still moving around, still exercising, reading aggressively, reading relentlessly, keeping her mindset cognitively sharp. at 94. And I know you like to refer to this beautiful word called unretireable. She's the definition of not retiring because at 94 she's still being engaged for her mind. And there's so many lessons that I've learned from her in graceful aging, how we attend to our mind, how we view crisis, how we view disease. In fact, the disease is not really to be seen as illness. And she just looks at it. If you separate that word, dis, dis, ease.
Yeah.
So if you take away this part, how do you seek ease? How do you
All
seek
right.
comfort? How do you remove the burden of the this part and focus on the ease? The way she views her mindset, and one of the conversations yourself and myself talked about was growth mindset. She's one that constantly has that purposeful, driven growth mindset. And I've had the opportunity over my entire lifespan to observe her, not just in public life, but in, of course, private life, and the way she engages. And this is a person right here in Trinidad, in our Caribbean, at age 94, that continues to epitomize graceful aging. It has translated into my workspace in so many ways because when we are faced with adversity, with crisis, it is that mindset that we take and how we transform those opportunities away from adversity, but rather into advantage and opportunity. She has shaped every single part of my life and DNA, not only in the way I train persons, but in the way I interact with our humanity.
What a wonderful story, isn't it, Dr. Safeeya?
Yeah.
So there are so many nuggets of learning you shared just now, and how we should keep our. And I really love that area of like how you separated the disease and how we should concentrate on the ease part rather than dis-ease part, right? So that's really profound, I think. And you
Yes, I'll
mentioned
give you
that.
a joke. I'll give you a little joke, right?
Yes, tell me.
Anytime when there's a concern.
Yeah.
Now, again, I want you to keep in mind this is a 94-year beautiful woman, right? And say there is a little medical challenge because we do expect some challenges at this age. She she'll go, no, 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 not at all. That I don't know what you're speaking of. I'm still 25. So the mindset of being that age. And I hope that my own personal, even when I reach that age, I can still have that mindset. Now, we do have longevity in our life, but the longevity didn't start from that age. It
Yeah.
started well before the lessons, the activity, the opportunity for self care, the opportunity for taking care of not just her health, but the connections of around her. And I firmly believe it's the way she takes care of persons around her that has fueled her own graceful aging.
Yeah. So since somebody you have observed, as someone who have observed such a uh, profound character like Honorable Ali, what do you wish um, the younger generation should understand about the importance of investing in their health now rather than later?
Very important question. And I think it's the reason why I would have done that paradigm shift from when I worked in the ICU, neonatal
Mhm.
ICU, to now preventative care. A lot of what we would like to have later on in life, we need to start that now. It's like investing, it's like creating your health bank. So, if you want to have that sense of longevity, that sense of good health and well being, it is so important the habits, the lifestyle habits in particular, we inculcate at this point in time. It is beyond just the physical form. It looks at like all aspects of wellness and well being. And like I said, these are the persons that shaped the pivot into the organization that I have, which is CISU Global Wellness. A lot of us will know there's that beautiful wellness continuum, right?
Mhm.
It's not just the physical health, it's our emotional health, our social health, our environmental health, our cultural health, our creative health, our digital health. In fact, there are like 12 dimensions of wellness and well being. And if each person can start to pay attention to their health from now, from their 20s, their 30s, an adolescent even, those investments they make in their life at this point in time will certainly benefit them later on. Again, she shares experiences of working in with her own family because they had
Mhm.
huge estates even as a child, and I also inculcate those experiences with my little one as a family, getting him out into nature, getting him out into understanding the importance of just simple planting, getting him involved in experiences outdoors, creating that bond of being nurtured by nature along with being that give back to the environment. I have seen how those experiences translate into good well being more than when we want to be reactive. So, that approach to proactive preventative life needs to
Mhm.
start from well in our adolescence or even earlier, as early as early childhood, not when we're aging. So, if we want that graceful aging, we need to start now. We need to inculcate good, healthy habits.
Yeah, it's you mentioned about some 12 aspects of well-being which you have come up with. And one of the things you just mentioned is actually so profound, I think, because especially for people who are working professionals, they tend to work long hours inside offices, and they are tired when they finish the day and they go back. So I think it's very important about the message you just gave about being nurtured by the nature.
Yes.
I think that's a beautiful way of putting it. So, how do you think, or what is the ideal time somebody should spend in nature in a 24 hours on or during a week or so? Have you come up with anything like that?
Oh, certainly. Now, I just want to put something into context, right? That wellness continuum that I mentioned, it's
Hmm.
something well beyond or before even myself discovering it, right?
Yeah.
It has been discussed by many other healthcare professionals beyond my stage. So I won't take credit for discovering the 12 aspects of wellness. I will take credit, however, for when we chat a little bit more about my son and some of the things that he has taught me and I have helped him learn. But when we look at wellness and the continuum of it, looking at proactive lifestyle rather than the reactive lifestyle and how nature nurtures us. What I've seen work in my life, even when I'm incredibly overwhelmed and stressed, because what we're seeing in the world right now is an increased amount of burnout, an increased amount of stress related disease, an increase in the non communicable diseases, diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular diseases. And when we look at the ways for prevention, yes, those lifestyle habits play a significant role. One of them being that ability to create calm, find stillness. And the most beautiful place that God created is our nature, our earth. But it's so important, is that we place an emphasis on not just how nature nurtures us, as in Mother Earth, but how we also return that nurturing to nature. Because many times we observe going out into nature, persons may easily pollute. And that's something that's one of my biggest pet peeve, right? I'm involved,
Hmm.
back to that volunteering, I'm involved with a lot of community organizations that give that focus on recycling, sustainability. So while nature nurtures us, we must pay attention to how we return those gifts to nature as well. Now, is there a secret formula to how much time we should spend in nature? I don't think any one person can give that secret, but I would say every single day. Be blessed by your sunrise, the power of the opening of the sunrise. Be blessed by simple, deep cleansing breathing. Say you're in the office space and you would like, this is actually, there's a lot of scientific
Mhm.
research behind it. You would like to create a sense of calm in the office space. Let's just say right here in the digital world. Do you know we're not supposed to be looking at the screen for a lengthy amount of time because
Yeah.
that's going to affect our eyesight? In fact, the ophthalmological world has come up with a 20-20-20 hack, meaning every 20 minutes, take a 20-second break and
Uh-huh.
shift your gaze to something green for 20
Hmm.
seconds. So if you have a simple plant on your table and you can actually touch the plant or shift your gaze away from your screen, you can actually, in just that 20 seconds, improve your eyesight or prevent something called computer screening or that digital eye screen, right?
Yeah.
So something called computer syndrome, sorry. And it's so important that we bring nature into everything, the peace of nature, the stillness of nature, the calmness of nature into everything. I'm sure you know that I'm a advocate for yoga, for
Yes.
meditation, for mindfulness. So I just gave you that 20-20-20 hack from our Ophthalmological Society. The one I like to also inculcate in every single one of my trainings, with be it in community spaces, be it in leadership organizations, anywhere I'm doing training, is emphasizing the power of our breath. So here's
Mhm.
a quick little hack. We call it breathe 4-5-6. Do you know we're actually a little bit lazy with our breathing? We tend to breathe very shallow and we're not
Yeah.
filling up all of our lungs. So 4-5-6 is 4 seconds on the inhale, deep
Hmm.
breathing. Hold it for 5 seconds and 6 seconds on the exhale.
Mm.
And if you do that 5 times, which is literally just 1 minute,
Yeah.
there's research that shows
I
it can
already tried, and it makes a
already
difference,
bringing a
I think.
calming, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
There's research that shows you can actually bring down your heart rate in just
Hmm.
1 minute. Breathe 4-5-6. 4 seconds on the inhale, hold it for 5, 6 seconds on your exhale. And it's so important that we
So I
give
think the
these.
secret is your exhale has to be longer than your inhale,
That's
right?
right. The
Yes.
exhalation has to
That
be
is
because we want.
hardly we do it unconsciously, right?
We don't. We're so
Yeah.
much on the go. And as we're chatting about burnout and as we're chatting about high levels of stress, which we experience every single day, we
Yeah.
must give ourselves the opportunity to press pause and calm. So, answering that question, is there a secret amount of time? You can give yourself just 1 minute, and that 1 minute can bring calm. You can give yourself 1 hour, but it's more important what is the intention and what do you want to achieve? How do you want to achieve it? The lesson there is make sure and schedule it every single day as a lifestyle habit, involving nature, involving the calm of nature into your life.
I think this is a very important message for our viewers and listeners also, that it doesn't, sometimes we don't do this thinking that it takes like a lot of time or many hours are needed, but as Dr. Safeeya is saying, we need just even 1 minute is enough to bring that
Mhm.
calmness. And I think another important thing which she touched best is when we are trying to form any kind of habit, it is important to put it into our schedule and not turn away from it, and schedule it so that we will follow that every day, right? Um,
Consistency is key.
yes.
Consistency is key. When you think of those with muscles, did that
Yeah.
happen overnight? Absolutely not. When you even think of someone with a beautiful smile, that happened because we're brushing our teeth. every single day. Now we can see the beautiful smile. That same level of effort we need to apply to our mindset. We need to apply to our internal forces. We need to apply to our energy, not just our time. You know, something I is too many times persons feel we look at time management, we look at
Mhm.
how we schedule. I like to focus on energy management. How do we schedule our energy? Because here's something, when you're motivated and you have the momentum and the drive and the purpose, you can get something done
Yeah.
in a short amount of time. But if you feel drained and if you feel not connected and disengaged, your time is going to be extended. So it's really our energy and how we manage our energy. That probably is one of the most important aspects of our currency. So, yes, the time, but how are we looking towards it, that energy that we give it?
Yeah. Dr. Safeeya, I think this conversation is amazing, and we can go on talking about this for, I think, the
I
entire
know,
day.
right?
Yeah, and I will really look forward to have more of your these conversations, maybe on another occasion. But on our previous conversations, I understood that one of your life's defining moment was when you met um, the famous Malala Yousafzai when she
Yes,
visited Trinidad and Tobago, and you were her personal physician. And I have
yes,
seen even some of those posts from your Facebook with her.
yes.
And what did that experience teach you about the power of voice of a single person and how advocacy, especially for young women, can actually change some people's life?
Now, when I met Malala Yousafzai, it was just before she became Nobel Peace Prize winner, right?
Mhm.
And she was age 17. And I consider it not just pivotal, transformational, defining. That, as you said, that word defining moment in my life. Now, it's quite some years ago. And she continues to be this powerful, commanding voice. Being a personal physician, I have had the opportunity of interacting with her in the public space and behind the scene. And what really stood out to me is the universality of her message, that the adversity she suffered and shared, which is our young girls not having the opportunity for education, how that impacted those in Pakistan, is the same
Mhm.
thing right here in the Caribbean. It's the same thing in South Africa. It's the same thing in North America. When one is denied an opportunity that is their human right, that, unfortunately, is a deep travesty. That is one that needs to be fixed. And even at age 17, or even before age 17, she used her voice to influence change in ways that is transformational. The profound lessons that I learned, or I would say still stays with me up to this day, is like her commitment to change, her commitment to education of young women, of just our youth on the whole, and the power of their voice. Now, yes, now I think our world is evolving, but in the past, we didn't give our young persons that opportunity, that stage, that mic. Many times on, say, even international experiences, you wouldn't have seen as many young, you would see our wiser ones. But now you're seeing that change. And the influence she has had in the world is really showing the power of the young voice. At that age, 17, her passionate drive was relentless, the way she commanded a stage. And I had the opportunity. Now, this is all before I launched Sisu Global Wellness. So
Mhm.
each one of these experiences played that pivotal role in my own personal transformational journey, because I would have gone from medical doctor to now founding this organization, and seeing the way she used her voice to effect change was deeply transformational for me. And I know it's not just myself that has that experience. Anyone who has interacted with Nobel Peace Prize Malala Yousafzai would share the same sentiments. She continues to impact the world in every stage that she has served.
Yeah. I think meeting someone even so that shows that even young people can actually impact lives of people much senior than them, like you yourself, for example. And so, how did that change the way you view your own platform to amplify your mission and your voice?
Very profound question, Ayaz. I think it underscores the statement turning adversity into advantage. And my our international coach John Maxwell, he uses that line a lot, turning adversity into advantage. Using those overwhelming negative experiences as an opportunity to not only grow through, but helping others learn from that experience, and using those overwhelmingly negative experiences to ensure that another person doesn't have to experience that. I implement and use that theory into every single training. We just came out of the COVID pandemic, and resilience was the superpower those companies needed for transformational growth. Resilience is something that Malala Yousafzai epitomized. It leaked out of her. And if we were to understand the superpower of resilience and adaptability in every aspect of life, we can each be a better human being. So she taught me profound lessons, but I think the one that stays deeply with me is resilience. And I'm hoping that we'll also share a little bit about when we talk about the company, because the company is called SISU,
Yeah.
SISU, SISU Global Wellness.
Mhm.
And that word SISU is a word that comes from the Finnish culture. And it is indeed, it's difficult to translate into English, but it does translate into the extraordinary mindset that one can have to overcome trauma, adversity. But here's the kicker: without losing hope. And we can be in traumatizing situations, but if we stay holding to, we have that hope, that positive mindset that we will come out of it,
Mhm.
or we have the opportunity to learn from it and not suffer through it. So back to connecting to the dis-ease, remove the dis and look at the ease part. So the amount of lessons I've learned from Malala, it has translated into my training. It has translated into who I am as a human being, who I am as a mother, as a friend, as a colleague to so many persons, as a doctor. And I
Mhm.
remind those how we can apply that transformational, that resilience into everything, no matter how traumatizing it is. Everything. Look at it as, regardless how the adversity you're experiencing, what are we learning from here? How are you growing through it? And also to remind yourself, and it's something that everyone says a lot of, but I also have to remind myself, this too will pass. Not to hold on to the adversity, but let go of
Yeah.
the adversity. So there are many lessons I learned from her, but I would say turning adversity into advantage.
Talking about adversity, I think this is an important message that you just shared, that in every moment of loss, adversity in our life, we have to bear in mind and we have to be mindful that it will pass. It is
Yes.
like any other storm, right? So
Yes.
storms are not here to stay forever. uh, Something like that, right? And
Yeah.
talking about adversity and loss, I know that you faced a profound personal loss, including the sudden passing away of your brother. How did that experience reshape your sense of purpose um, and change how you approach life and the people you care for?
Let me take a deep breath. As
Please.
it's actually this month. It's the month that of his passing, and it was a tragic, tragic accident. Some know the story. It's been written about. Um, I was a young student at the time, young medical student, clinical student, in fact, in my final year of training. And the accident happened. I actually was on call. Um, on call meaning we were working in the hospital. Having lost my brother at that point in time reminds me or shaped how just fragile life is, right? This has
Mhm.
happened, this unfortunate experience happened as of this year, it will be 23 years ago. And it is still so raw. It still, I would say, affects my every single day interaction because today we have life, tomorrow we really don't. I spoke to my brother that same day of his accident at around lunchtime. And he was begging me, come, let me take you out to lunch. Let me take you out to this. He was the I would say the best cheerleader and champion of social connectedness. Anyone who knew him knew because he served at that point in time in many different roles. He had gotten so many different awards at that point in time. He was only 26 when he with at his accident. And when he called me that day, because I'm working in the hospital as a student, there
Mhm.
was an absolute no way we could just leave, right? So my statement to him was, no, I can't. And up to today, those words, no, I can't. Anytime, say a friend calls and say they need this and the other, sometimes I might rethink that question. Do I have the space? Do I have the capacity? Do I have the bandwidth? Do they need me at this point in time? Can I say yes? So it has shaped everything. It has shaped my every interaction with my patients. That day, because of the accident, we weren't given the opportunity to save him, right? So he didn't come into the hospital for us to be able to save him. And every single life that comes into these hands that I have the opportunity to save is a revered opportunity because this is the loved one of a family member, of someone else. And I would say I translate that loss into that energy that this is a revered experience I have to help save someone. And I think that would have been why I went into critical care, why I went into neonatal ICU, why I served in Children's Authority. It's places of where there was a lot of crisis, a lot of critical care. But when you look at those opportunities with a level of reverence, of how can you change that? How can you help someone not go through that level of deep pain? I'll never forget. And like I say, even though it's 23 years ago, it's still very raw. I'll never forget when my mother came into the hospital that night, recognizing that she'd lost her son. Now, I lost my brother, but she lost her son. And her expressions of grief, it helped me understand compassion in its rawest form because you see the loss a mother experiences. And when I became a mother, forgive these tears,
Yeah. Take your
it's
time.
it's
Mm.
still emotional. When I
Yeah.
became a mother, when I had the opportunity now to become a mother, I really understood that loss. And it deepened the bond that I have with my own mother, with those cries that she had that day. And even up to now, 23 years later, when we have moments of celebration, she still says it's difficult for her to celebrate because a part of her is no longer there. When my young son came, we felt like he now opened the door to re-express that love. So I've gone through the sinusoidal wave of loss and return of love with my son as well. And I've seen how deep pain, so long as we continue to honor it in a positive way, then we same experience, we can learn from it, we can help someone else learn from it, we can honor it. Grief is not something that goes away right away. I've helped so many persons go through that grief process because of what I've experienced. That level of compassion. And up to this day, 23 years later, I'm reminded of the fragility of life, that every day we're given is a gift. It's to be more present, it's to
Mhm.
form deeper human connections, it's to experience relationships in a more meaningful way. Because we're here today and we really don't know what's there tomorrow. And I don't like to be morbid, but I take that into my everyday experience.
What a touching and profound story, and how it has reshaped. I mean, in my personal life also, I have had losses like this, especially the loss of my both parents was really profound, and it really started me thinking about my career and my purpose in life, and like you
Yes.
said, to realizing that everything, every person we have is a gift from God, and we need to be present and mindful, like you said, to be with. So this event or does you at this point of time you are working in ICU, right?
At
Uh,
that point, I was still a medical
Medical
student.
student. Okay.
Right. I
Uh,
eventually graduated and became a medical physician, went into
mhm.
pediatrics, went into neonatal ICU. Yes.
All right. So, what made that from you were working at the National ICU of Trinidad, right? And then what made you to pivot from there or change
Mm.
from the ICU and the crisis care to preventative wellness and
Yes.
corporate wellness systems, what you are doing now? And what was the emotional or physiological breakthrough that allowed you to make this change?
Yeah. So the having worked in the neonatal ICU, neonatal, some places say national, but it was really neonatal ICU in one of the public healthcare hospitals, San Fernando General. I would have had the opportunity to really, just like what I said there, understand the fragility of life. We had many little ones, micro preemies, even small babies that um, we may not have given, not sure what their next steps would be, but seeing how we're able to use medicine, scientific, innovative processes to help them now save lives, and also understanding that some of it leaned into lifestyle diseases where we could have prevented some of those tragedies, right? It wasn't, I would say, I as it wasn't just say one breakthrough, it wasn't just one experience, but rather a gradual awakening fueled by countless experiences, seeing how we can use or transform that acute care setting and the energy, same thing, that energy of acute care setting, reshifting that focus. So it wasn't just like a one aha moment, but over an extended period of time. When my little one came and he decided to come, same thing, a little too early in life, I had to press pause. So he also was delivered, say, about 7 weeks too early. And I had to press pause. And rather than returning into the neonatal ICU, into the world of pediatrics, in pressing pause, I realized, how can I apply those same clinical skills, that same critical assessment, that same appreciation and understanding for the intricacies of the human body, instead of looking at end stage or the early stages, how can we now be preventative? And while I pressed pause on my own personal life in terms of vocational and academic when I became a mother, I used that opportunity to further my own academic career in terms of deeper understanding, deeper training, moving into understanding that connectedness of our human experiences. So that shift from reactive, I would say, lifestyle to proactive, preventive lifestyle happened over a period of time. And it really, I would say, instead of now shifting from rescuing lives from the extremities, rather to building a foundation of sustainability and well-being, and looking at it from a very much a proactive approach. How can we ensure we have optimal life? How can we ensure we're doing the right things at the right time to ensure we get our fullness of life? So it's not just health, it's a well-being approach. And I had the opportunity when I pressed pause to explore that well-being approach in many different occasions. I had the opportunity of presenting all the way up at United Nations Commissioner Status of Women. And when I presented there, it was actually along the lines of the well-being approach, understanding that there are many different dimensions to health. It was not just prevention of disease, and our World Health Organization continues to hold that overarching definition of what is health and well-being, but rather optimizing our life to really create a healthier society. And when we look at the continuum, as I talked about, of wellness, we look at physical health, we look at spiritual health, we look at environmental health, we look at, of course, our creative health, our cultural health. We're now looking at digital health. So it started a long time, say, the 6 dimensions of wellness. It has now moved all the way to the 12 dimensions of wellness. And I'm pretty certain by tomorrow and next year, there might be a 13th to the 14th dimension. So I had the opportunity of applying those same experiences instead of end stage to now expanding and optimizing life, forming the company called Sisu Global Wellness. So it wasn't just like, say, one breakthrough or one aha moment, but rather gradual steps of that journey. And every single client I have as a either who I'm coaching or company, say we're doing a conflict resolution training or leadership training, I remind them this is not going to happen overnight. This is a step by step, a sinusoidal curve sometimes. You might go up the ladder and pulled back a little bit. You might go further up the ladder and then pulled back a little bit. And it's the same thing in my own life that is now mirrored in the training. Because when I left the the neonatal ICU, that year was actually 2011. As interestingly, that year, our university, right here in Trinidad and Tobago, University of West Indies, they had something called, they had the commemoration, or I would say the celebration of their 50th anniversary. And at that 50th anniversary, they then chose 50 distinguished alumni. Now, I want you to think of the numbers. 50 years of university students passing through all the faculties of law, engineering, humanities, medicine. And a committee had the opportunity to choose just 50 persons. I'm humbled to have been one of those 50, and even up to today, so that was 2011, even up to today, one of the youngest persons on that distinguished alumni. That happened the same year, 2011, that my little one came into life. So I was literally at the top of my academic, career, and I pressed pause. So I pressed pause at a pivotal point, but I allowed all these lessons, meeting Malala, the introspection of losing my brother, the introspection of the appreciation of my own little son coming too early, and what that meant for myself as a mother, and form now my next steps. Often in this world that we going at such a fast pace, sometimes we feel like, what's the next goal? What are we achieving next? Where's the next step? Where are we jumping to? Not recognizing the power of the pause. And the universe granted me the power of the pause. And in that power of the pause, I had the opportunity of forming this beautiful company called Sisu Global Wellness. And Sisu Global Wellness has taken me to meet you all the way in Maldives, right?
Right,
Si-
right.
Sisu Global
Just
Wellness
after
has
COVID,
taken,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
2020. Sisu
yeah.
Global Wellness has taken me to meet persons in Australia, meet persons in Singapore, meet persons all across the world, in India as well, right?
Mm.
So sometimes we think we're at the peak, but there's so much more on our journey, on our bandwidth. And that's the importance of pressing the pause. It taught me so many lessons. So that answering your questions, and I know we're going very tangential, but answering your question, stopping from the ICU, the neonatal ICU, and forming the company was gradual steps. But it was so important that I pressed pause and understood the profound message of introspection.
Uh, what a wonderful story to I mean, and the tip which I also have learned a long time back, but which I never practiced, but now I'm more mindful of practicing, is, like you said, taking a pause.
Yes.
It's very important, I think. And like you mentioned, you have been trained um, in unique blend of medical training, leadership in US and United Nations, diplomacy and mindfulness. How all
Yes.
these things are combining and blending into your work today?
It is so critical. And there's so much more to that training. Sustainability, our sustainability developmental goals, every single one layer into each other. It's like our fingers. Each one is different, but when they come together, it's a unique blend of an approach. So from medical world to transformative leadership, to diplomacy, to peace, conflict resolution, to behavior change and resilience building, they now create a beautiful mesh of this tapestry, I would say, of how to create optimization, how to have it, say when I'm doing leadership training, how to have your high performance team, but how to be as clinical and as surgical as possible to remove some of those edges that unfortunately may hold us back from our deep potential. As we hear often, and I know both of us listen to podcasts, we hear about persons living that purpose driven life. I think when I pressed that pause, I had the opportunity of understanding, going deeper into what my purpose was. And I know fully well I am deep seated now in that purpose. And that purpose is bringing meaningful change in every opportunity, bringing a level of deep connection, continuing to help persons unlock their potential. Too
Mhm.
many times we're walking around in this universe not knowing what is our gift. And again, bringing you back to your that word that you are putting into the universe, unretireable. So even when we reach that stage, we still have potential to unlock.
Yes.
And every time I meet someone who has not yet unlocked their potential, I get very excited. Let me help you unlock it because there's so much that we can discover. So there's a lot in that transformation. There's a lot in that, how it incorporates now into my training. But each one of it is like a beautiful tapestry that comes together that also we each have as part of our capacity. And when I do that training for organizations, or when I even see my patient, or when I even have an interaction with my best friend, each time
Mhm.
is how can we be the best version of ourselves in that moment?
Yeah, this is, I think, the way you are blending your life learnings into your trainings, and especially the leadership training, is
Yes,
remarkable. And as you have already spoken about, your son Musa is
yes,
neurodivergent, and you have said that helping him thrive has actually reshaped how you understand communication and human potential. What specifically
yeah.
the lessons you learn from helping him to find his potential has impacted the work you do and the leaders and organizations you serve, and how
Yeah.
you connected those two, and what is the message from that you are giving to the leaders now?
As I am perfectly comfortable to admit that Musa helped me see my blind spots, right? And here's the thing, in the world that we live, it's not about one specific way of thinking. Musa gave me the gift, being neurodivergent, being having his own unique way of communicating, gave me the gift of understanding that in order to truly connect with someone, we have to be able to meet them where they are at, not where we want them to be. So we must be able to meet them where they're at and then take them where we want them to be if we're doing leadership training or transformation. But he also helped me understand that the fundamental approach, how you approach leadership, how you approach training, the conventional approach. There's so many different ways. So it's not like the standardized metrics or expected behaviors. We must have that potential to look beyond, those nuances, to look beyond just the spoken word, right? Because our neurodivergent, and I would love to use the word extraordinary, because they bring gifts to us that we have to have the strength to be able to see. When we're able to see those nuances of body language, the power of, I would say, of different sensory experiences, and he showed me the beauty, I would say, in unconventional experiences, right? It now has shaped how I tailor communication training, how I shape leadership training. First, to understand that it's no longer this very stringent, rigid framework of behavior management, but we must look beyond the hidden words, the hidden messages. We must be able to nurture potential in a way that we create the environment for it. And many times, this world did not create that potential or that environment, right? Musa helped me to understand communication. What did I say? I'd say he helped me to learn to communicate in a world that is not well prepared to communicate with them. And to me,
So,
that's a message that we need to also understand in our everyday experiences that there are persons who have a difference in the way they communicate, our neurodivergent. It brings that neurodiversity into play, and that everyone wants to be seen and heard. But we have to understand one, creating the environment, seeing beyond the spoken word, beyond the messages, understanding neurodiversity, and of course, being a little bit more empathetic and compassionate in our leadership potential.
wonderful. You already mentioned that it is important to look beyond the words and the actions and things like that. What specific advice will you give to parents who are going through the similar journey?
That look at your child, every child is a gift, every child. And look at this as a journey, as a gift. There are many, many, many moments of patience, many moments where it can feel hopeless. Because, like I said, we're living in a world that's not prepared for children like this. Thankfully, now it's changing. And I hope I continue to play a role in changing that messaging of awareness and acceptance and neurodiversity and inclusion. But to every single parent out there who is blessed because you are chosen to be the parent of this child, think of it through that lens. Think of the lens that you have the patience to move beyond. You have the patience to understand your child. It will take a little bit more. And if you are feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to press pause. I've had to press my that pause quite a few times. I've had to understand that I don't know everything yet about certain aspects of medicine or even certain aspects of taking care of a child like this, and reach out to others and learn more. Sometimes I learn actually from other parents of autistic children or other neurodivergent children, other extraordinary children. I've learned sometimes more from those parents than even the textbooks of medicine. And I'm
Mhm.
perfectly comfortable in admitting that we have so much more to discover. So to every single parent, find your tribe. It's okay to press pause. It's okay if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, but it's not okay to feel that hopelessness, because there's so much hope in that gift that you were given as a neurodivergent child. And if you do feel hopeless, reach out to me. Reach out, reach out, reach out. I've had parents reach out. Sometimes they send voice notes, they send messages, 1 o'clock in the morning. I may not respond to it right away, but I do get to respond. In fact, even up to recently, I had a parent on social media on Facebook reach out to me, and she was saying she loved the way my son Musa and his thinking, because they have a very unconventional way of thinking, right? And how he approaches things. And she shared something that I put onto social media that I thought was fairly simple. And she thought it was so profound in the way she now applies it into her life, in terms of the way he switched around the way of thinking of a certain aspect of just a daily habit. And I didn't realize it would change or impact us so much, and yet it did. So sometimes we have to look at the unconventional thinking. So that's personal life. But how do we extrapolate it to the world of work? Many times when we're faced with problems or faced with crises, we must understand that there are different voices on the table that can have a different opinion. And this is where our new divergent persons, individuals, can bring so much benefit, because they have an unconventional way of thinking, and they add a level of inclusivity and a level of experience that we may not even have the opportunity to think through. In fact, I read recently in a research from World Economic Forum that it was saying the inclusion now of neurodiverse managers, neurodiverse leaders, is helping shift the way they're looking at critical thinking, strategy, a more pragmatic approach. So there's, to every single parent out there, there's hope. Hold on to it, even in your hopeless moments.
What a wonderful message. And also you mentioned that if any parent want to reach similar, who are on similar journey, want to reach out to you, what is the easiest way to reach out to you?
Oh, indeed. I'm on social media, Facebook, Instagram. Yes, there's a LinkedIn, but I need to pay some attention to it. I think the easiest way to reach out to me is via email, which is, as you're seeing up there, the company is Sisu Global Wellness, SISU global wellness at gmail.com. The number is 380 sisu. So very easy to reach out to me. Facebook is another way to reach out to me. Instagram is another way to reach out through the
Wonderful.
company Sisu Global Wellness. Believe me, I've
We
had
will
parents
leave
trying to.
some links to connect
Definitely,
with you for
definitely.
those who want on our description as well.
Yes.
And you have reflected on how we overlook the emotional and psychological side of retirement, especially with your
Yes.
aunt. And also, you mentioned about the word which I was saving for later already, the unretirable, right? Becoming unretirable. So, how do you think we can better prepare for the non-financial dimensions of life after our working life, our working age?
I'm so in awe of that word unretirable. I'm looking forward to your book. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to how the wisdom that each one of your speakers have already shared, how that is also going to shape my life, how it's going to shape every single training that I have with my other organizations or teams. every single time that we look at where we're at, tomorrow should be how can we be better? And there's no ending point.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the world of work has put a point, be it 60, 65, 70, whatever it is. However, I love the concept that you have brought forward of unretirable, in that when we look at it, it means we can continue adding value even beyond the space of the work. And
Mhm.
we started a conversation with my aunt at age 94, I'm telling you, when she turns up for an event, just the sheer presence, she doesn't even have to say a word, there's no speeches. Just the sheer presence of the former First Lady attending these events adds a level of esteem. And
Yeah.
she's 94. She's completely unretirable, right? Persons still send her their books to read, to edit, because that level of cognitive thinking still stays with her. So I want us to keep in mind, and I hope that I never retire. Absolutely. I pray I never retire. I know the son that I have, he's gonna keep me on my toes. So I know he in himself, each day he brings different things to the table. He's always solving some problem or the other, right? And I hope I never never retire. And I hope anyone that I train also sees their potential even after they move out of the world of work. They can still continue to add value. Use that wisdom to improve someone else's life, be it in your case where you are adding it into a book, or this
Mhm.
beautiful podcast, The Waves of Wisdom. Again, I love the name. Any way that you can use your life as a roadmap to help someone else, even in the simplicity of the message. Keep adding value to everyone. And I think if I were to try to extrapolate or understand what does unretirable mean to me, that would be it. Keep adding value every day, regardless of age. There's no timeline on that age.
I think it's a beautiful message, and connecting with the unretirable message, which I want to give is actually finding the purpose and your passion, hanging on to it so you don't have to retire. So,
Yeah.
what do you think? What are the biggest mindset shifts people need to make in how they prepare, not not just financially, but emotionally, physically, and cognitively to a life of ongoing purpose and adding value, as you have mentioned.
When it comes to our mindset, it is crucially important we pay attention. Just like we mentioned about some of the lifestyle habits, brushing our teeth, the things that are every day we should pay attention to our mind. It's like we must have cognitive fitness exercises, right? It
Yeah.
starts from yesterday. It doesn't start from today. It starts from yesterday. And every single day, be it reading something new, be it listening to a fantastic podcast like Waves of Wisdom,
With a
right?
fantastic guest like you. Yes.
Right. In fact, I'm an avid podcast listener. Simon Sinek, Steve Bartlett, John Maxwell. I love all of their podcasts. I
Me
even
too.
listen to some of the podcasts of
Yeah.
some of those that my son listens to. So I get to intertwine that. But constantly opening up the opportunity for learning. It's not we end learning as a student in university life. In fact, I have mentors around me. They're in one line of profession and now they're adding a completely different line of profession. So, one of those mentors, he's an engineer and he just jumped into the world of law. This is after retirement and he's now pursuing his law degree. And I love that because it's saying there's no end to learning. And in fact, within the religion of Islam, our Prophet Muhammad said, it's life, learning is lifelong from the cradle to the grave, right? And I
Exactly.
hold that very dear to my heart. So there is no retirement. What we do, those messages we put into our brain is continuous, be it learning through an academic degree, learning through podcasts, learning through reading, learning through a new skill set, learning through experiences. Going out in nature, every single thing, there's something to learn every day. Do not deny yourself the opportunity to learn something new every single day.
You have rounded it up beautifully, I think, Dr. Safeeya. And just a bit of out of context from the topic, but what is that one myth you like to bust forever in with related to wellness and work-life balance and well-being?
Oh, there's so much. Narrowing it down to one, you mentioned the word work-life balance. I'll use that one. There's so many, but work-life balance, I believe that is an absolute myth. There's no such thing as balance in work and life. In fact, I like to adopt the theory that I read, work life blend. And what does that mean? When we say work life balance, does that mean we're giving equitable amounts to work and life? Does that mean when I'm in work, I'm giving 50% there and 50% to life for the scale to balance? Absolutely not. In fact, and I actually heard Oprah said this on one of her shows, that attempting to achieve work life balance is an elusive goal we're never going to achieve. Right? And every single time we're approaching Mother's Day, in fact, and when I do a lot of conversations with corporate moms who are attempting to balance motherhood and life and the corporate ladder, I tell them there's no such thing as work life balance, it's work life blend. So let's find ways of blending that life
Mhm.
into work. And I think I've successfully or still on that pathway of achieving it, because many times I bring the lessons I've learned from Musa into my work, or vice versa. I've bring lessons from work into my everyday experiences, and how can I shift that work experience into something positive. So instead of trying to attain that balance, no such thing as work-life balance. I think as mothers, especially, as we hit this Mother's Day as well and celebrate, there's no such thing as work-life balance. Let's not try to put unnecessary guilt on ourselves. Sometimes we need to pay more attention to our life, as in motherhood. Sometimes we need to pay more attention to work. In fact, I tell persons when I'm training, at that point in time, they are getting the 100% of me. When I'm with
Yes.
my son now, he gets the 100% of me. So if at the point in time I'm with my son or my family and a call comes in, I go into my questions. Is it emergency? Is it urgent? Can it be dealt with tomorrow? So I create those boundaries. And that's where I think we can now have that work life blend rather than trying to achieve this work life balance goal. Often as well,
I yeah.
yeah,
I
often as
simply
well,
love this concept of work-life balance
yes,
to
work life
work-life
blend.
blend, which
Yes.
I also always wonder, and sometimes I write also on my social media as well, because even on the in the economic indicators, sometimes uh, it is actually the homestay mothers, or sometimes the moms who take breaks for to childcare is actually kind of ignored in the economic indicators and things like that. But they are doing such a wonderful job by blending that phases,
That's
right?
right.
Uh,
That's right.
we are coming to a closure of our.
I
And
know.
I can
This has
continue
been
on talking like this,
amazing.
for the rest of the day as well. But Dr. Safeeya, just before your closing remarks, if you could go back in past and give one advice to your younger self, maybe the young woman who is struggling financially in their medical schools, or stepping into entrepreneurship, uh, what would you tell her?
Excellent, excellent question. Very profound. I would tell my younger self, enjoy the journey, enjoy the moments of learning, even when you feel everything is bleak, because there's greater learning in those crisis and chaos than there's the learnings of celebration and jubilation. And allow yourself to be brave and bold and courageous. In fact, even up to today, I still feel like I suffer a little bit with imposter syndrome, and I suffer a little bit with anxiety and ADHD sometimes because I want to achieve it all so quickly. But press the pause, take time to just be present in the moment and appreciate those adversity. I've learned so much from crisis and chaos that I've learned from just everyday celebration. So even in those moments of being bleak or sad, overwhelmed, just press pause. You will get through it. There's hope at the end of that tunnel. If it's not you to give that hope, connect to something deeper to you, your spirituality, persons around you. It's okay to not be okay at some times. And that is a message from the mental health approach that we need to understand that everyone is going through something at some point. So just hold firm, hold grounded, stay grounded, be grateful, that gift of gratitude as well, even in times of adversity. If you can find a glimmer of hope in as deep as the waves or the chaos, the storms bring you, then that will take you through. So, to my younger self, you're doing okay. It'll be okay. Be brave, be courageous, be the best version of yourself every single day.
What a profound message and beautiful way to encourage the younger selves. I wish I had somebody like you telling me this when I was a
Somebody
young
like me
person.
too.
But I think we as people in our age, and from our generation, we have gone through this the hard way and learned it. So I think now we can pass on this message to the young generations.
Yeah.
Just as a final message, and if you have to leave with one powerful message or takeaway on living with purpose and in a balanced and more resilient life and not becoming unretirable, what would that message be?
As I must say, I'm so excited about when your book comes out, okay? I love that word unretirable.
Mhm.
One message, there's so many messages, but I think I'm gonna lean into the message of Sisu, right?
Yeah.
The Sisu superpower. And I hope each one of us take the opportunity to discover what is your superpower. It's tied so deeply into your purpose. It's tied so deeply into your presence here in this world. So the superpower of Sisu, and let me remind everyone again what that word means, right? It's that Finnish word coming from the culture there, but going beyond any adversity, any trauma, that extraordinary, that determined mindset, that growth mindset to continue to push through, even when we feel overwhelmed, and tap into deep within. Now, while it's not an acronym, SISU, I've taken the opportunity in many of my trainings to break it down into an acronym. So while
Mhm.
I'm giving you one superpower, I'm going to add in four more and give you five superpowers, right? So the five superpowers, one Sisu, but let's break it down, SISU. The first one, S, the power of stillness. And we mentioned it earlier on. And when I say the power of stillness, just reminding yourself that we need to inculcate calm and equanimity every single day into our lives. The line, the transformational line, the ethos of this company, Sisu Global Wellness, is consciously creating equanimity. And is that calm that we would like to have every day? Every day we have trials and chaos. You know, Murphy's law is with us every day, right? So I would say, amidst like that ceaseless currents, of our thoughts, of the demands of the external world. I want us to intentionally seek stillness, find
Mhm.
that presence. So one, create that deeper sense of peace and stillness. Stillness. I, investing. And when I say investing, I don't mean financial investments. That is crucially important. But I mentioned it a little bit earlier on. The most important currency, the most powerful currency is our energy. How are you investing your energy? How is your energy supporting your purpose? And I want to repeat that line. How is your energy supporting your purpose? Or the converse, how is our energy distracting from our purpose? Because many times there can be so many different chaos and crises that our energy is so consumed that it becomes distracting. So pay attention to your investments, not just your financial investments, but the investment of your energy. So the first S was stillness. I is investing. The next S, there are many different words, right? And my name starts with Safeeya, and I like to use different terminologies and stuff as well, and what Safeeya means. But this next S is a crucial, crucial superpower. It's surrendering and having that superpower of knowing when to just soften the flow to the flow of the universe of trust and hope. And I mentioned Murphy's Law because guess what? We can have something planned to the T, and Murphy just decides to
Mhm.
come in and change it all up, right? So we have to have that power of surrendering, which equates to being more adaptable, being more agile, shifting the mindset rather than just staying rigid, understanding that we must be able to surrender, let go a little bit, and let the universe, knowing that the universe has us. Now, I want us to understand something very carefully, right? Surrendering does not mean being passive. It is not passivity.
Mhm.
Rather, it's trusting in the inherent intelligence of the universe, right? So, understanding that internal resilience and surrendering, that surrendering will reduce some of the stress, reduce some of the burnout. So, the three letters so far: S, stillness; I, investing; next S, surrendering, the superpower of surrendering. And the last message is one, this beautiful word called Ubuntu.
Mhm.
Ubuntu comes from the African philosophy. I am who I am because of who you are, right? I am because we are. And I want everyone who is listening right now, get a little piece of paper and write down the word illness, and
Illness.
and write down scratch off I and write WE. What word do we get?
Wellness.
That's right. So let's not look at it as an I, but look at it as a we. I am because we are. And when we recognize that our own well being is intrinsically linked to the well being of others, to the well being of the environment, to the well being of the workplace, there's a culture of health everywhere. I am because we are. When we cultivate this deep sense of empathy and compassion for others, we understand those shared human experiences. And we can also deepen that sense of purpose and belonging in the world. Recently I read something, I believe it was something by Simon Sinek, and he
Mhm.
was sharing that one of the core values that we all want is not necessarily love, but belonging.
Of
And when
course.
we understand that deep sense of purpose is connected to us belonging to each other, we understand that purpose. So the five superpowers, Sisu, but
Mhm.
giving yourself the gift of stillness, giving yourself the gift of investing your energy, the superpower of surrendering, and the gift of the beautiful philosophy of Ubuntu. I am because we are.
Dr. Safeeya, what a beautiful way to round up all what we have discussed today in those letters of Sisu. And I kind of love how you have actually turned the illness into the wellness when we think of everyone instead of myself and I, isn't it? Uh, Dr. Safeeya, thank you very much for sharing your remarkable journey and insights with us today. You have shown us how resilience isn't just about pushing through challenges, but about redefining what success and well-being mean every single stage of our life. To all our listeners, I hope you are walking away inspired to reflect on your own purpose, your health, and the ways you can prepare for life of continuous growth and learning until from cradle to grave, like Dr. Safeeya mentioned, and and finding that joy and passion and becoming unretirable. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow Waves of Wisdom, leave us a review, and share this conversation with as many people as possible who needs to hear it. Until next time, stay curious, stay resilient, and keep riding the waves of wisdom. Thank you.